We had, I think all of the goats were here at that point. I mean, Ringo and all of them. And what I remember is that at the same moment, every one of my goats stopped eating, looked up, looked across the river at something. And it wasn't just one person who told me what they saw. Good morning, folks. Lester here. Hoping you're all having a wonderful weekend. Now, of course, I'm recording this on my weekend. You probably won't see it for a couple of days, but this morning I'm taking my goats down to the river for a little walkabout, and going to get out with them and give them some good foraging. You guys know that I give my goats access to the river at all times. You don't take walks to the river, Beverly. Anywho, yeah, my goats have access to the river at all times. I'm going to turn my camera around and show you all. But poor babies, they're scared to go without me, and I don't know how to break that. So let me turn my camera around. I'm going to show you all the same steps that I take with them every day. And maybe you guys can come up with some ideas of what I can do to get them to be more involved in river activities. All right, so let me explain to you what's happening real fast and kind of give you an idea of where I'm at on the property. Okay, so this obviously are our ostrich and our goat pastures, right? And we used to have where this gate would open and the goats could have access to all of the wooded acreage over here that's been recently cleared. So I did put a temporary, and I say temporary, gate up or fence over here to keep them from going across into that pasture. There's nothing to forage on right now anyway. So I don't want them up there. Besides that, Mr. Leo still has to come back and get the timber he's piled up. So we don't want them in the way. I don't want to have to put my fence up, then take it back down when Leo comes to get the timber. So for now, the goats do not have access to that pasture. But I opened up this gate over here. Come on, babies. Come on, littles. Come on, you bunch of littles. You know, wacky pack littles. So what I've done is I've opened up this gate over here, which gives them access to all of Mother Nature's goodness on this side of the property. However, they're scared, and I don't know why they're scared. Come on, babies. They do come with me, but they will not go by themselves. I want you to see how close we are in proximity. There's Jamie with her garden. So it's not like they're in the woods. But they don't want to come over here. Now listen, you have to, I guess, listen to them because they know what they're talking about. They would not be scared if there weren't a reason to be scared. But what bothers me is there's so much nutrition down this hill, and I just having a hard time making them come on their own to get it. Now, you may be saying, Lester, so what's the big deal? Why not just take a walk with them to the woods every day? What's it going to hurt you? It's not hurting me at all. But that means that they're on my schedule. And goats, you know, obviously most animals use their clocks are set with the sun, their internal clocks. They wake up with sunrise. They want to head back to bed or, you know, start finding a place to rest at sunset. And so they're having to wait for me to get up and about. And what about days when I have other things that I have to do? I can't make the goats sit around and be hungry because I don't have time to walk them down towards the river. And that's what they do. That's exactly what they do. They will stay there in that little small pasture I showed you, and they'll wait for me. And I just feel bad about that. So I wish there was a way to have them at least walk, even as far as here. Even as far as here, there's amazing things to eat on. They don't have to go all the way to the river, but there's something about coming down here that scares them. I don't know if it's the drop in elevation. They feel like they're too far from home. I don't know if they can smell something that I wouldn't know walks around these parts. You know, at night, you know, sometimes animals, predator animals will walk around and they'll urinate in areas they claim is theirs. Maybe the goats can smell that. Maybe they can sense that there's danger. Even if it's not here right now, this land is, or this area has been claimed by some kind of a predator, which suddenly makes me look around. I don't know why I'm thinking about Bigfoot all of a sudden. But no, anyway, this is a part of the daily routine that I feel like I have to do. You know what's crazy is they never had a problem going into the front woods. The front pasture, before we had it cleared, was a whole lot thicker than this. Guys, you have seen videos of us in that front pasture, and it was a whole lot thicker than this. So I don't think they're scared of the thick woods, because of limited visibility. I just think that there's something about these woods. I don't know. And then, well, of course, I could allow my imagination to go back to the time we saw the spirit along the far riverbank. I never saw the spirit, but a lot of people did. They saw the Native American who was waving at them. And all the goats looked up at them. Do y'all know that story? Let me tell you that story in case there's someone who doesn't know. This is a kind of a spooky story, and I don't mean to scare you all, but for those who might be new to the channel, and you may not know the entire history, let me tell you what happened about a year ago. And it happened right over here. So this right here is a spot where it happened. I had walked down with the littles. Here they come now. And all of the babies were around this area. They were grazing. I remember because of these two logs that the land clearers had put here when they cleared up some of this back property. They put these logs here so that I wouldn't accidentally run off over the edge. And so as I was standing in this area, and I think I was kind of right through here somewhere, all of the goats were here in front of me. I had the camera I think I was talking about the river or saying something about it. And all of a sudden, at the exact same time, every goat stopped and looked up and looked out across the river. Now, guys, I get into my zone. I'm just rambling away about something or another. I don't know what I was even saying. And I never said, what? I never did. I just kept on talking. But all of the goats stopped and looked across the river at the same time. Now, it wasn't until later that I go back up to the house and I finished my video and I start working on it, whatever, when all of a sudden I begin to get a couple of emails. I posted the video, obviously, and I begin to get a couple of emails about someone standing across there on the bank of the river. They were obviously I'm just going to say, indigenous people dress. And it was a man who was waving. He was waving. So I never saw him. The goats did. I never saw the man. And so I never waved back, obviously. Instead, I just go ahead and at some point, made my way back up towards the high hill. And all is everything's fine. Well, supposedly, there's a really sweet lady who has some psychic abilities. And she said that particular fella had come down. He was obviously a Native American spirit who has a love of animals. He was standing on the bank of the river. He was waving at me. When he noticed that I did not wave back, he had his feelings hurt. He kind of shook his head in kind of a sad way, and he walked back up the hill, back into the forest there. Now, a lot of y'all right now are saying, Lester, that's just foolery. That's just nonsense. Lester, there ain't no such thing as spirit. There's only one spirit, the Holy Ghost, Lester. And that's fine. Everyone can believe what they want to believe. I'm not going to cast judgment on you. I am not going to do that at all. And that's great that you have your beliefs. But, I'm not going to discredit anybody either. And so all I'm saying is what I actually saw on video. That's just the only thing that I can believe is what I see with my own eyes, right? And what I saw with my own eyes we had, I think all of the goats were here at that point. I mean, Ringo and all of them. And what I remember is that at the same moment, every one of my goats stopped eating, looked up, looked across the river at something. And it wasn't just one person who told me what they saw. It was spooky. But hey, there's one thing about it that I believe, and I do not believe that if there are ghosts, they can hurt you. And the funny thing is, I say that in the broad daylight. If it were nighttime and I was standing here, even at my age, I would be terrified. I would be terrified, not of any living creature. I wouldn't be terrified of some coyotes off over here in the distance. I wouldn't be terrified of a lone wolf walking around. You know, I wouldn't be scared of an alligator crawling up across the riverbank. No, the things that would scare me the most if I were here alone at night would be the possibility of a ghost. And Mr. Huck, that's a golden girl who's very pregnant, and she doesn't need to be knocked off the side of a cliff. That's a 20-foot drop, Mr. Huck, and you need to be more careful. Respect her. I'm standing on the stump. Shirley Bird is also enjoying the little piece of log here they placed across the path. And so every once in a while, guys, just to be safe, I'll just take my hand and I'll wave. I just do it. Look at the eagle. Look at the eagle. Watch, he's gonna scoot down. I'm gonna be real quiet. Did I say he's gonna scoot down? I meant swoop down. Very majestic. There's nothing as exciting though as when you see an actual, oh, there's two. When you see an actual white-tipped, white-head bald eagle, and I have seen several over the course of the year we've been here. These two here, they might be bald eagles, but they're not mature enough to have colors change. But they're definitely eagles. And they're beautiful. Sometimes they'll land on this little rocky, when the river's as low as it is now, they'll land over here and they'll fish from there. I have walked up on them, but I've always spooked them at some point. Anyway. I would like to think that any former inhabitant of this area would be pleased with as beautiful as, you know, things are. And then, of course, we know that not all former inhabitants were only Native Americans. We've also found Civil War artifacts here on our property, and we know a great deal about a place not far from here, and within walking distance, about a mile the way the crow flies, of a really neat Civil War. Well, there's a historical marker there. What does that tell you? So I don't know about the number of people who have lived and maybe died here on this particular patch of land. I don't know about the afterlife and whatever happens. I have my religious beliefs, as I know you have yours. But I'm not ever going to be the one to question anybody's beliefs, because that's none of my business, y'all. That's your business. And you can't impose your beliefs on other people. You can, you know, you're welcome to share your opinions and your ideas and your beliefs. That's fine. But it's no room for argument. To each his own with some things. The goats are doing great, and I'm glad they come down with me to enjoy a little breakfast. Even though I hated they had to wait until 9:30 for me to get up and get going this morning. So I know they would have liked to have been down here at 6. Before I leave you on today's video, I want to ask you all a question. And I'm almost embarrassed to have to ask this question. But I'm going to run it past you anyway. And you guys give me your ideas. Yays or nays, your worries, your concerns. All right. So you know that we are having a shortage of grass as far as our cows, horses, and donkeys need for grazing. We have gotten a couple of rains, but I mean, you know, it's a little bit, well, they say too little, too late. It's so late in the summer that I don't know how much growth we can expect. And so I'm having to really work hard to keep the cows healthy. I want to say that again, I do not want to have to move Tex back to I'm a Survivor, even temporarily. I do not want to put them through that. So here comes my suggestion. It's just an idea, so think it through. What if I allowed Tex and Santana, along with Charlene, to come down here to the back to graze alongside the goats? Well, it wouldn't be grazing, it'd be more foraging. I have said it before, my friends, and you can use the internet to look it up yourself if you want to. But longhorns are notorious. They're known to be the most hardy of all cattle breeds. That's why we like them here in Texas. And they can survive on things that other cows can't. How do you think they would do if I put them here into this back pasture? They would have a water source up the hill. Could my longhorns navigate these hills without getting themselves hurt? Would the longhorns be able, would it benefit them to be able to come back into here and forage on things the way the goats do? They can't get out. They can't get out of this pasture. They're not going to cross the river, and they're fenced in on all sides. So my worry would be, are the longhorns sure-footed enough to even attempt to walk down these hills? You know, goats are very, very sure-footed. I don't know of a better word to use than sure-footed, but goats have no problems whatsoever navigating these hills. Would the longhorn struggle coming down and then getting back up? And then would it be worth it? Is it worth it, the risk it might take? But there's a lot of green down here. And until we get the second pasture up and going, of course, that could be months. That could be months away, y'all. I really just don't want to have to move Tex back to I'm a Survivor, but I don't like to see him and Santana sit there and lay around all day because there's nothing to graze on. When I know that we're so blessed to have all of this back here. The birds are fine. The goats are great. The horses and donkeys, I think, are okay. But they too are going to struggle a bit. But they're not foragers. But to know we have an abundance of green here, the only concern is the terrain. And how hard would it be to move them around? There's no flooding concerns. So I don't know. I mean, do longhorns walk up and down hills? Especially rocky hills? I don't know. Anyway, I'd be real curious to see what you guys think about that. And I love reading your ideas and your suggestions. Just I ask that you politely and respectfully, think about what you're going to say. Just don't call people idiots. Don't call people idiots. not me, or people who disagree with you in the comments. Wanda is wondering if maybe she could take a little walk down to the river. Wanda, sweetie, I don't think the river would be a good place for you. I don't think you should go to the river, love. You can find all that you need right through here. You know that they also have access to leave out of this gate and make their way down that area. No, they want to stay close to Daddy. They love staying close to Daddy.
Don't let your troubles fester. Come watch Longhorn Lester.
Yeah, something like that.